Live from Studio G and fighting for you for the foxhole freedom. It's time for another brand new hour. Glad to have you here. Warning, the Steve Gruber Show often results in a triggering effect, extending periods of American pride and American optimism and uncontrollable enthusiasm in this country's future. Kicking off the live broadcast and Real America's Voice, MTN, and reaching a growing global audience worldwide. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Thank you for being here. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Elise Stefanik, who opted to remain in her congressional seat, is now nixing the opportunity of staying there. She wants to run for governor of New York. A big move. Number two, the Trump administration moving to strip the IRS of millions of rounds of ammunition and the guns that go with it. Yeah, it's true after years of building up stockpiles. And number three, rogue activist judges doing their level best to stop President Trump's plan to keep Americans safe from the fallout of the Biden administration's border invasion. Judge James Boasberg is at it again, informing the Justice Department that he believes he's found, quote, probable cause to hold President Trump in contempt over his use of deportation flights to send illegals out of this country and back where they came from. You heard me right. He thinks he can hold the president of these United States in contempt for doing his job and enforcing immigration laws. Boasberg's feathers have been ruffled, of course. He says President Trump showed willful disregard towards his emergency order on March 15th that commanded the United States to bring back planes of illegal aliens, gang members, that were sent to a prison in El Salvador. This despite the fact that the United States Supreme Court has already ruled that President Trump was not out of bounds in using the Alien Enemies Act to deport those violent criminals. The judge is demanding and continues to demand the government respond in a week, April 23rd, to provide some kind of defense. Yeah, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung says that the president plans to seek immediate appellate relief as Trump remains committed to keeping terrorists off our streets. The opposition is just throwing anything and everything up, hoping something sticks, hoping to bog down President Trump's agenda with legal filing after legal filing. Democrat Jamie Raskin couldn't lather on the praise any thicker after hearing about this latest development, of course. Listen to this.
Look, Judge Boasberg, who was a President Bush appointee when he originally went on the bench, and he was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale, will go down in history as a great judicial hero for what he's doing here, because he is trying to put up a huge stop sign against the lawlessness. He said, I issued an injunction for you to not let those planes go, or if they were in the air, to turn them around. They hadn't left yet, but you willfully, deliberately defied a court order. You can't do that. Even the President of the United States can't do that.
Yeah. I don't remember, maybe you do, but I don't remember Raskin making a fuss or kicking and screaming. When Joe Biden bragged about working around the Supreme Court to burden the American public with the cost of student loan forgiveness, which the court was very clear about, you can't do that, and Biden says, well, going to do it anyway. Remember that? Joe Biden tweeted, the Supreme Court tried to block me, but they didn't stop me. Democrats applauded his bravery. This time, Trump is kicking out actual violent terrorists from known gangs. Terrorists, kicking them out of the country, who should never have been here in the first place because they're here illegally. And Democrats applaud the judge who's making that difficult, even demanding that these gangbangers be returned to the United States. Another roadblock coming out of the district courts. Judge Indira Tilwani is halting the Trump administration from ending deportation protections for more than 530,000, in fact, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans. These 530,000 immigrants were admitted to the United States by way of the Biden-era humanitarian parole program, a program created out of thin air using executive parole privilege. You see, the executive does have a lot of control over who comes and who cannot come to the country. So it's okay for Joe Biden to use executive parole privilege, later halted due to the evidence of extensive fraud in the program. But now, this Boston judge, another federal district judge, says President Donald Trump can't undo the executive decision by Joe Biden and can't undo the damage. Talwani wants a case-by-case review for every single person who used the program, case by case, for 530,000 illegal aliens. Where was this kind of concern for diligence when these people were just rubber stamped on the way in? No background information, no vetting. Because don't forget, a lot of these countries don't share it with us. They don't give us any information. This is what's become crystal clear. Democrats, along with these rogue judges, care more about virtue signaling in favor of illegal aliens and even criminals, outright violent criminals, than they do for the constituents who pay their salary and live in their districts. Here's Maryland's shameless Senator Chris Van Hollen, using taxpayer dollars to fly to El Salvador to visit an illegal alien, or try, that was deported there. The one that has been in the media so much this week and they're fixated on. Listen.
And I said, I'm not asking him to smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. I'm simply asking him to open the door of CCOT and let this innocent man walk out. So they should just let him go. And they should let him go, and we will find a way to get him from San Salvador to Maryland, the state of Maryland. I won't stop trying, and I can assure the president, the vice president, that I may be the first United States senator to visit El Salvador on this issue, but there will be more, and there will be more members of Congress coming.
Yeah, okay, good luck. This is the hill they want to die on? Psst, let them do it. It's what the Democrat Party prides itself on, that they're itching to ensure the welfare of individuals who are not even American citizens at the expense of American citizens. Yeah. Citizens like Patty Marin lost her daughter Rachel at the hands of an illegal alien who was allowed into this country from where? El Salvador. She lives where? Maryland. Paying the salary of Senator Van Hollen. Here's how she's responding. Listen.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledge my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
I don't understand it either, ma'am. Most of us do not. But the Democrats more interested in what Abrego Garcia, Senor Garcia, has to say, even though we just discovered that Abrego Garcia's wife filed a restraining order against him in 2021 over domestic violence claims, extensive domestic violence claims. Yeah, and we're going to get to that and dig deeper. Because the Democrats really are going to die on this hill. They're going to die for illegal aliens. They're going to die for gangbangers. They're going to die for wife beaters over the people that live in this country. They value these illegal aliens more than they value you. We'll continue talking about it straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. Hi, it's Steve Gruber for Freedom. All right, so the Democrats truly will die on this hill. They're going to go to bat for the illegal aliens, for the people that beat their wives and these criminals. 530,000 were flown into the country unvetted just so they could skip over the line and give a false impression that the number of people coming across the southern border had lessened. It never did. Well, it did as soon as Donald Trump became president. Representatives Garcia and Frost are requesting that the House Oversight Committee give them permission to travel to El Salvador to do another photo op like Van Hollen just did. Here's a Democrat strategist's reaction to the visit. Listen.
Well, I think it's a good step. I would have loved to see an entire congressional delegation go with him.
That may be starting, right?
And you know, hopefully that happens, because I think, you know, owing to the reporting and to the judge's comments, the one clear and consistent fact that we have to keep in mind, that an individual is in prison and he was entitled to due process and didn't receive it. Period. Full stop. Right?
Regardless of immigration status.
Correct. He was entitled to due process. He did not get it, and now he is in prison. How many times have we heard that in communities across the country, even if you are a citizen? We always think that that is wrong. And so for the senator to go down there, call attention to it, and I hope that others follow, it is incredibly important that he do that.
I think he's right. I wish an entire Democrat delegation would go to El Salvador. I think they should do it every couple of days. I think it's compelling television to see Democrats standing there demanding the rights of MS-13 gang members. I think it's exactly what the country needs to see. Who do the Democrats support? Is it working class people? Is it the middle class? Is it you getting up to go to work today? Or is it some guy with tattoos all over his body and face that they think should be living in Maryland next to some hardworking tax-paying Americans? Yeah, the party has completely lost its way. Rachel Marin deserved the right to live, but hers was snuffed out. Hers and many others. And many more to come. If these gangbangers aren't deported fast enough, people will die. Listen to ICE Director Tom Homan. Here he is.
And I'm just disgusted that any congressional representative is going to run to El Salvador his aid. When yesterday, I read in his state, an illegal alien charged with murder was released back into the community, and the ICE detainer wasn't honored, and ICE had to go find him. In his state. In his state.
In his state. That's right. Tom Homan is right. Tom Homan is right to point out the twisted priorities of politicians like Van Hollen. Another thing I'd like to point out, Senor Abrego Garcia was shielded from deportation to El Salvador in 2019 because he feared violence from a gang, a rival gang. That's why he was protected and not sent back. Barrio 18, why? Because it's a rival gang. He's a member of MS-13. Scott Jennings on CNN pointed this out. Pretty funny. Listen.
Was effectively disappeared to a foreign country, a country which he came from, which he was basically got asylum.
It's not a foreign country. He lives there.
Excuse me, no, he does not live there.
He's a citizen of El Salvador.
Scott, excuse me, he got asylum in this country.
He's a citizen.
Scott,
does he have asylum?
Excuse me, let me finish.
No, he doesn't.
No, it's not that he. Okay. Sorry, it's not that he got asylum. He got a judge to say that he could not be rendered back.
Does he have a deportation order?
Excuse me, he could not be. Can you let me finish? He could not be rendered back to El Salvador because he was at risk of being harmed in El Salvador. That is what a federal judge said.
By who? No, who was he at risk of?
Excuse me. That was what a federal judge said.
He could not be deported.
Who could he be at risk by? I don't know.
But a rival gang.
No. Excuse me. Scott. Excuse me.
Yeah. Rival gang. Democrats hate the facts. So let's end this with some more facts, shall we? Some good news, actually. Some good news. Although there's more criminals to root out, the fact of the matter is that every American citizen, whether or not they voted for Donald Trump, is safer today than they were under Joe Biden, for one of many reasons. Border Patrol being allowed to do its job again. It's pretty remarkable. Here's the Border Patrol chief. Listen.
And look, I can tell you right now, the Border Patrol morale is going through the roof. We've had the handcuffs taken off. We're allowed to actually do our job, which is go out and enforce the law. Under this administration, they have literally taken the handcuffs off. and allowed us to enforce law instead of policies that were created to contradict the law. And so our morale has continued to rise. I'm actually out in the field today. I was over in Rio Grande yesterday, outstanding morale in El Paso today, visiting with the troops out here and the agents, and the morale is just through the roof.
And how's recruiting?
Recruiting is looking great. We're seeing some of our highest numbers ever. Really excited about that because, as you know, during the previous 4 years under the Biden administration, we saw a mass exodus from the Border Patrol, and we saw some of our lowest recruiting numbers. We're seeing the opposite. We're seeing agents pull retirement paperwork in order to continue staying in and serve, and we're seeing our recruiting numbers go through the roof.
Yeah, recruiting numbers are great there. Recruiting numbers are great in the military. Recruiting numbers are the best they've been in years and years across law enforcement and in the military. So while the mainstream media and Democrat politicians continue to moan and groan and complain about illegal aliens being returned to their own countries, rest in this. The Trump administration is pushing full steam ahead, making America safe again. If you're not an illegal alien, you can get a good night's sleep. You can rest easily because you know that the American government is there working for you finally and not for somebody else. Isn't that remarkable? And again, for me, what's really remarkable, Democrats want to die on this hill to protect the illegals and gangbangers over you and me. Good luck with that. Some coffee is weak, some coffee is corporate nonsense, and then there is 1775 coffee. It's what we wake up every day with here on the Steve Gruber Show and the entire team. Bold, high quality, built for those who refuse to compromise, like you and me. Hand-picked, high-altitude, single-origin beans roasted to perfection. No toxins, no shortcuts. What is it? It's just damn good coffee. You want your cup? Well, head to 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. And for every dollar you spend, you'll have an entry to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. Bold flavor, exceptional quality, no BS. 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Hey, I wouldn't tell you to drink coffee that wasn't the best. Trust me, I live on this stuff. We'll be right back. All right, so I've said for a while, maybe going to the gym's not such a great idea. Maybe, maybe you're not going to feel so great. Maybe it's not healthy. Did you ever think of that? Maybe going to the gym isn't healthy. Well, okay, maybe that's not exactly true. But this story frightens me. I saw this story yesterday. I had to say to Ivy, I said, what is this? So a gym employee dies and a client is in critical condition. This after a cryotherapy session went horribly wrong. And basically that's an ice bath, right? It's a high-end fancy ice bath. But a woman died. It is a gym in Paris. Not here, but in Paris. Because it malfunctioned. And nitrogen, which was making the ice bath, leaked. And nitrogen, you don't even know what happens. You just basically, you collapse because nitrogen replaces the oxygen. No oxygen to you. You apparently die. So there was a leak. The client reportedly taking part in a cryotherapy session when nitrogen gas leaked from a cold chamber. 3 other people who tried to revive the woman were rushed to the hospital. 150 evacuated from the building. I mean, when this nitrogen, colorless, odorless, commonly used during cryotherapy, The exposure to sub-freezing temperatures causes the body to limit blood flow and release hormones, including adrenaline and endorphins. I mean, the ice bath part of it's good. The nitrogen part of it, deadly. Deadly. Emergency medical kits. Everyone knows the next medical crisis is around the corner. Are you prepared? Whether it comes in the form of a pandemic or something much more mundane like a tick bite, you and your family, be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. I do a lot of work with the Wellness Company, as you know. They have great doctors. Dr. Peter McCullough was just on. Dr. Thorpe was just here. The Wellness Company and its doctors are medical professionals. You can trust them. And their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy and prepared. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist you in the proper use of these medications. Anthrax, tick bites, a trip down the street, a trip around the world. They're here to help you to make sure you and your family are safe. Rest assured you have antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, anything you need. It's right there. You want to find out more? Please do. twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. You can order today. Use that promo code Gruber. You'll save 10% on your order. I'll be right back. All right. I had a friend of mine. In fact, he's having a seminar tonight. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Terry Sawchuk told me, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. He said, Gruber, the world's going to change more in the next 10 years than it's changed in the next 10,000. The last 10,000, that is. And I'm like, that seemed like a bold statement 2 or 3 years ago. But you know what? I think he's right. I think he's exactly right. And it has changed. Some for the better, some maybe not so much. My next guest, Mark Beckman, wrote Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. He's also the CEO of the award-winning advertising agency, DMA United. We've got a lot to talk about. Mark, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Steve, it's great to see you. Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you, was my friend right when he told me a couple of years ago the world will change more in the next 10 years than it has in 10,000? I think, at the time I'm thinking that was kind of a bold statement. Today I look at it and go, you know what? I think he was right. What do you say?
Steve, it's a great place to start this conversation. I believe that your friend is dead on. He's spot on, correct? In fact, I believe because of the current administration, President Trump's administration, artificial intelligence will represent the single largest growth sector percentage-wise in the nation over the next 4 to 5 years. And moreover, our society will radically change for the better because of artificial intelligence, probably within 3 to 5 years, Steve.
Dramatic leaps forward is what it does. And AI, look, it has great applications. It has dark sides. I mean, unmanned weapons of war concern me. I wouldn't be telling you the truth, Mark, if I didn't say so. I think those sorts of things concern me. Robots and drones that have no conscience, just algorithms and directions. Those are frightening pieces of equipment, are they not?
It's a fair concern. And, you mentioned my book. This is actually my favorite chapter in my new book, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. And what I do, Steve, is I analyze what a post-nuclear warfare, what a post-nuclear war machine looks like. And the reason it's scary to me isn't because artificial intelligence will fuel more agile weaponry like drones, but it's about who will get their hands on it. So it fundamentally changes the equation of war from countries like America with big budgets to develop huge machinery, accessing the most powerful weapons, to smaller, poorer nations, let's say, for example, like Yemen, accessing these more agile drones that are powered by AI and can attack from all over the world. And here's what's interesting, Steve, just a point of concern. There's a company now named Extend Drones, which actually does business already with the United States government, with the Department of Defense. And they've created a system, Steve, that an individual can, with no military training, control swarms of drones from a very far distance to attack. So here from New York City, I could control, as if it's a video game, drone swarms to attack anywhere in the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, and beyond.
Right. So, and that's exactly what I'm talking about here, Mark. I look at all these, remarkable displays of drones doing, I'll call it artwork, where they're doing these things where they dance in the night sky and they've got these big images that are moving and they look like the starlings, but they're lit starlings and they're doing all their magic. I think that's wonderful. That's the beautiful part. But if you weaponize that same swarm, the outcome could be wholly different. And you're right, a small country like Yemen or Libya or Pakistan, who's already got nuclear weapons, could have something like this in their arsenal if they don't already. Now, we're in a race with the Chinese on this, clearly. And Mark Zuckerberg, he's in court this week as they decide whether or not Meta is going to be dismembered. But he has admitted to helping out the Chinese Communist Party and compete with America on this AI platform. I mean, this is pretty, it's pretty damning, isn't it?
It is. It's definitely problematic. There was a whistleblower that testified in Congress. She was senior policy leader at Meta, and she really, really exposed, or her allegations could be very hurtful to Meta and to Zuckerberg. She claimed that Zuckerberg was engaging in conversations with the CCP and was sharing artificial intelligence information as it relates to developing facial recognition software. But moreover, his idea, what she claims, was to collaborate and create censorship tools for the Chinese government. Now, it's important to note, though, in fairness to Zuckerberg and Meta, they don't do business with regards to Facebook and Instagram in China. That said, they are generating $18 billion a year in revenue through advertising right now, today in China. So those types of issues are concerning for sure.
Well, I go back to my days when I worked in newsrooms in this country. And it always concerned me when the sales department came into the news department, was your news credible anymore? Always a fair question. Who's paying the bills if something happens? Let's say it happened with Ford Motor Company, and they're a big sponsor of yours, and something happens. Are you going to cover the story fairly, or are you going to protect your cash flow? You'd have to ask the same thing about Zuckerberg. $18 billion? That's no small amount of money now, is it?
No, it's a ton of revenue, and I think we've seen this type of playbook from American companies and China over and over throughout time. Like I'm not too old to remember when the NBA marched into China and they generated a ton of revenue from exploiting that world. So it's this delicate balance, like capitalism
and in fairness,
and money.
Mark, let me jump back in there. Then the Chinese Communist Party dictated which teams could be seen and which ones could not. The Boston Celtics, for example, were blacked out because there was a man on that team that was highly critical of the CCP. So therefore, the Celtics got zero airtime and zero revenue from China. It's true,
That's
isn't
right,
it?
Steve. That's right. So like we as Americans need to balance like money and ethics versus communism. And people need to start to understand that communism is a bad thing. Millions of people have died because of communist regimes. Nobody could go and look across the planet and say, well, these communists or these dictatorships have done well for mankind. At the end of the day, capitalism is important. I am pro free trade and pro capitalism, but we need to start to balance protecting America as it relates to our civil rights, to our freedom versus the almighty dollar.
Well, you're exactly right. Capitalism did not kill 100 million people in the 20th century, but communism did. Under Stalin, Mao might have killed that many himself, but nobody's quite sure how many Chinese died in the Great Leap Forward in 1958, 59, and in 60. They don't even teach that in schools anymore, Mark. It's remarkable. They don't even teach the Great Leap Forward, which is nothing more than a great leap into a coffin for millions of Chinese citizens. Look, AI has a lot of upside. And do you have time to stay a little bit longer today?
Yeah, I'd love to, Steve. I'm here for you.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you through a break because, here's the dark side. Here's the competition with China. But there is a lot of upside. And I want to explore some of that with you. Mark Beckman is the author of Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. The CEO of the award-winning advertising agency DMA United as well. So, Mark, sit tight. We're going to have you back. We're talking about the bright side of AI, how it does make people's lives better every single day. Remember, everybody else, do me a favor. Go follow me on social media today. We've got a movement here today, all right? So on X, we're growing rapidly. On Facebook, I don't know. Zuckerberg's Facebook has gotten real kind of dicey on me. Go give me a follow on Facebook today. Let's see if we can jump those numbers a little bit, see if it still works, all right? Be part of this movement, this freedom movement. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. You might not think a lot about AI, but trust me, it already thinks about you, if there's such a thing that a machine thinks, if you will. Go get on an airplane. It takes your picture, right? There it is. Your bionomics, it's all there. It takes your picture, knows exactly who you are. First time I got a car that would correct my driving. Could have had that years ago. 10 years ago, basically. The car starts to leave the lane. It keeps you in your lane, keeps you safe, keeps the people around you safe. Now I've got a car that, it adjusts the distance between me and the next car, always adjusting the distance, so you can be even safer. You've got cars, of course, you can jump in now, push a button, it'll take you where you want to go. A lot of things with AI changing the world. Mark Beckman, author of Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything, still with me here today, Mark. And so there's a lot of really good things. It's driving. It's diagnosing illness, right? It's diagnosing illness because it'll go through your body and say, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. And then go through 100,000 scenarios just like that and say, well, wait a second, Mr. Gruber, here's your ailment potentially. And here are 3 things to look at for the doctors. Then you put human eyes on it. I mean, it's a way to improve your life from sun up to sundown, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I love the fact that you brought up the medical industry. My book that you mentioned goes through different sectors, from creative to finance, from medicine and beyond. The medicine piece of it is fantastic. There's a new technology, AI fueled, that Google created named Amy, and it is literally for diagnosis. And what they found is that this tool, this artificial intelligence tool, has almost a 100% accuracy rate at diagnosing illnesses, including rare diseases that have left our communities over 100 years ago. But of course, people are using AI in the medical profession now as a tool. So what the doctors will do is they'll use Amy in conjunction with their own human examination, with their own human thoughts and consideration. And I think that's a critical part, Steve. People need to remember AI is a tool. It's not a solution that should exist on its own. And they're already applying it in the medical industry.
Yeah, it needs a chaperone, if you will, this AI of ours. It needs a chaperone looking over its shoulder. And in health and diagnosing all sorts of diseases, and what you just said there is really important. Rare diseases, maybe diseases that haven't been around or only show up on very rare occasion, like a few cases a year. Most doctors aren't going to dig that deeply into the books, and before you realize it, something bad has happened, something goes undiagnosed. By the way, Gene Hackman and his wife come to mind. They died of the hantavirus. There's only a handful of cases every year in this country, but if they had been seen by a doctor and known what the AI answer was, maybe they would have survived that. Here's something else that comes to mind with AI. Energy, modular nuclear. We're in a day and age now where a nuclear power plant can be the size of an SUV, can power a whole city. Well, AI can oversee that process. If there's any concerns, any issues, any change in the structure of the power device, it can warn people. It can tell them good things. It can adjust for storms that are coming. These are all things that are possible with artificial intelligence, right?
That's right. And again, I break it all down in the book. And what it does is it allows for, on a micro level, people to save money in their homes. They could create more efficient environments, literally, because of the artificial intelligence. And then going into the commercial arena, imagine the benefits for American farmers, where they can use artificial intelligence to predict weather patterns and react accordingly. There are companies now that are deep in, AI companies specifically, Steve, that are deep into the farming industry, developing these incredible formulas for farmers, American farmers, to leverage and benefit. What's interesting, Steve, I think it's worth noting to your audience, what I did with the book is I created a tool. So if they want to learn, if your viewers and your audience wants to learn how to use artificial intelligence to optimize, to better their careers, I actually lay out all of the AI tools that are available for them today. I list the names and I create links. Every single chapter ends that way. So if you're in finance, if you're in medicine, if you're a farmer, if you're interested in some of the more governmental and war weapons, all of the tools are listed at the end of every single chapter that people can utilize today. They could learn how to use AI today.
All right, so my concern is this, Mark, because I saw this. You're in New York. We talked in the break a little bit about this, but you're in New York, and I think it was in New York where I saw this article, here a few weeks ago. The first AI news anchors completely generated out of the ether of AI. Here are two people giving the daily news. To me, that's a little creepy. I mean, I go back to Max Headroom. I'm old enough to remember Max Headroom. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a little goofy.
Max Headroom was great.
Yeah. So is that a real, I mean, are we going to have artificial intelligence reporting on the radio, on the internet, on television, on streaming? What do you think?
All of it. Generative AI is here. It's very powerful right now. It creates copywriting, script writing. Video is coming out at a higher level than ever. Photorealistic images. We mentioned China in the last segment, and it's interesting. Just last week, Reuters reported that China was using generative AI to create an information or a misinformation campaign in Taiwan that was anti-American through their news outlets, in video, in print, and in photography. Reuters reported this, Steve. So, it's a concern. And what I tell people in the book is we're no longer in an age where if you see it, you believe it. Now we need to tell our children, we need to tell our friends and family, if you see it, verify it, because it might not be real.
This is why I go fishing, Mark, because that's still real. The natural world I can still trust. AI, I think it has a lot of upside, tremendous amount of upside, and some concerns as well. The book, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. Mark Beckman, really appreciate the insights today. Thank you, sir.
Oh, Steve, it's really such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day. There you have it. So you guys weigh it out. What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? You can go to stevegruber.com. You can send me an email. Tell me what you think, all right? Some Future Day. Get that book and tell me what you think of that, too. How AI is going to change everything, if it hasn't already. I mean, don't you feel like it's changed a lot already? Where are we going to be 5 years from now? I mean, think about this. How long have we had smartphones? True smartphones, 10 years? Yeah, how much did that change things? I'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, Jack sent me a note here, which I appreciate, Jack. Jack sent me a virtual newscaster from 6 years ago, so I guess that's possible. They've been working on it for 6 years. It could just be me, and I thought I would never die, you see? They'll just be me. They'll bring my voice in and my image. I'll never get older, thankfully. You know, I'll always be 35 like I am now. Right. Here's, I just want to tell you this real quick. City of Detroit last year spent $3.2 million on cable television. It has its own cable channel, right? I guess they have 3 channels, 4 channels total. All right, so total views in 2024, about 115,000 views total for 365 days, $3.2 million. Maybe it's an idea to get rid of that little program there. Here's a question for you. Would you trade a half an hour for $750,000 in your IRA? Join Terry Sawchuk for an interactive webinar live and learn how Sawchuk Wealth helps people reduce their investment costs by as much as 50% and better manage investment risk as tariffs and trade wars threaten the markets. Terry's going to answer all your questions, discuss simple changes that could put an extra $750,000 in your IRA by the time you retire. You'd do that, wouldn't you? It's worth checking out, isn't it? Of course it is. Sawchuk Wealth, that's SAWCHUK Wealth. SawchukWealth.com/Gruber. Register for the webinar. It's today. The webinar is today. $750,000. All securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. Just have to say that. FINRA SIPC. Only invest what you can afford to lose and all that happy stuff. But $750,000, 30 minutes. Go find out more. SawchukWealth.com. I mean, what else are you doing tonight? If you can add $750,000 to your portfolio, I'd certainly do it. Coming up, the military wants to cut ties with the Boy Scouts, or now it's Scouting America. It's not the Boy Scouts anymore. They changed their name, and, well, the military doesn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. We'll talk about that coming up next right here on The Steve Gruber Show. Don't forget, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, follow on all of them. Slap that like button.
Today.
Ripping the lid off another hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here, but there is a warning, a trigger warning. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, American optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm for this nation. God bless America. Live in all 50 states and around the world. It's a dirty job, and I'm going to do it. Here are three big things you need to know. Number one, is there a serial killer on the loose on the East Coast? Seems that's the case. Investigators growing concerned that the list of victims will continue to grow. Number two, the Associated Press and Reuters demanding access to the White House briefing room, but so far a judge's order has been met with silence, and it's not clear when that may end. And number three, why is it, I ask again, why is it the Democrats and the left-wing media are so willing to fight for gang members that have been ordered out of this country? But they don't care one bit about the victims of violent crime those illegals leave in their wake. Well, how do I know? Look, Rachel Marin, for example, a mother of 5, was brutally raped, murdered, and then raped again. Think about that, by an illegal gang member from El Salvador, right here in America, in Maryland. And yet when her mother came to the podium yesterday at the White House during the press briefing, CNN and MSNBC decided there were better things for them to cover. Now, they've covered Senor Garcia over and over again. The man tossed out of the country for being a member of MS-13, the man that we now know apparently savaged his wife with domestic violence. Can you imagine the heartbreak of this mother and the gall of these major networks to basically spit in her face? It's disgusting. She's at the podium, and CNN, Chicken Noodle News, and MSNBC don't care enough about her at all to even put her on screen. They don't care. But her story's compelling. I'd like you to hear it. Her daughter
feels
murdered
like
by
to
an
carry
illegal.
a baby in your womb, or to feel those first kicks, or to know just intuitively if it's a boy or a girl. It's only a thing that a mother knows. Why are we not protecting the American citizens? It's just common sense. Why are we not protecting our children? And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't understand it either, ma'am. She's, of course, referring to Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, who flew to El Salvador to demand the release of a gangbanger of MS-13, Abrejo Garcia, and yet doesn't speak to her, doesn't talk about her daughter who was brutally murdered by another man from El Salvador, another member of MS-13, another Maryland man. All these gangbangers. She went on to beg the media, the same media that dumped her, CNN and MSNBC, to talk about Abrejo Garcia, Senor Abrejo Garcia. She went on to beg the media to stop supporting these illegals. Here she is.
Please tell the truth. Exactly. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell how violent it really is. This is about protecting our children. It's more than just politics or votes or just anything. It's about national security, protecting Americans, protecting our children. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's gut-wrenching. It's disgusting. Here's Van Hollen, Cory Booker doing the same thing. A bunch of the other folks doing the same thing. Jamie Raskin doing the same thing. All fighting for gangbangers. And look, this is who they are. Jasmine Crockett, what did she say? Where is Jasmine Crockett? I want to get to her. Let me hold 1 second here, Anthony. Jasmine Crockett had something to say about all of this. And it's just, yeah, go ahead and play that.
So let me tell you something. This ain't about criminality. This is about the fact that he was a little too dark for them, and he ain't even that dark. But they don't like melanin. Melanin is the biggest enemy that they have ever seen. This is why they go after certain people.
All right, play that one more time. I want people to hear it again. Go ahead.
So let me tell you something. This ain't about criminality. This is about the fact that he was a little too dark for them, and he ain't even that dark. But they don't like melanin. Melanin is the biggest enemy that they have ever seen. This is why they go after certain people.
No. What we don't like are violent, wife-beating gangbangers. That's what we don't like. I wouldn't care if he was lily white and came from Sweden. I'd ship his ass back there, too. The idea that she would say that the only reason they don't like the MS-13 gangbangers is because there's too much melanin. Racism, please. And again, I say, Democrats, do your very best. Go ahead, die on this hill, because your political careers will die on this hill. How many Americans do you think will raise their hands and say, hey, I want Trende Aragua living next to me. Hey, I want MS-13 living next to me. Give me a break. What a bunch of imbeciles. Yeah, I want a whole bunch. In fact, I want a whole gangbanger house next to me right there in the neighborhood. We can get a little crack on discount, get a little fentanyl for cheap. Man, maybe we could chop down a couple of cars, chop and drop some lowriders, man. Yeah, let's do that. They're out of their minds. Absolutely out of their minds. But you want to support that? Mr. Van Hollen, you want to fly to El Salvador and demand the release of an MS-13 gangbanger? Be my guest. You want to show faux outrage about how a gangbanger was deported, a gangbanger who was a resident, a citizen of El Salvador? Be my guest. You want to ignore Rachel Marin's mother? You want to ignore the mother of a girl raped and murdered and raped again, the mother of 5? You want to ignore her in favor of gangbangers from MS-13, Trende Aragua, the Latin Kings, pick your gang, I don't care? Sure, go ahead and do that. It makes for damn good television commercials for the midterms. It's a 90-10 issue, and I don't know who the 10% are. It is a 90-10 issue, and I can't even begin to imagine who the 10% are, because you are disgusting human beings. Anybody that would support gangs and criminals and drugs over American citizens, over their own constituents, is beyond the pale. Go ahead, die on that hill, because die on that hill you will, politically speaking. I'll be right back. My next guest has put together an organization that focuses on young people and is an alternative to Scouting USA. It used to be Boy Scouts, right? But then the Boy Scouts got gobbled up. Military officials now urging the Defense Department to cut ties with Scouting America. So you have Trail Life USA, the largest Christ-centered, boy-focused scout-type organization in the nation. Stephen Ashton, the National Director of Marketing for Trail Life USA, joining me now. Stephen, nice to have you back on the program.
Great to be here. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, so why are the military officials saying, look, no more with Scouting America? I think the name officially changed this year. They came up with a name change here a while back, and then it was delayed, but I think it actually happened this year. Am I right?
It absolutely did. This is their second name change, actually. They were Boy Scouts of America, and then they became Scouts BSA when they decided to add girls to the program. And then recently they have just gone all in and decided to go to Scouting America and remove any part of the word boy from their name officially.
So why? And look, I got to be honest, Stephen. In some places that are remote, where you've got, a dozen boys for Scouts and there's one girl has no place to go, I don't mind that. Do you?
I think I do, honestly. There are so few places where boys can go to just experience being a boy and have men pour into them and have that unique boy-specific space. And there are so many places for girls to go. There are a lot of great girl programs. And we have a sister organization. They're called the American Heritage Girls. And they are doing for girls what Trail Life USA is doing for boys. And let's be honest, Girl Scouts of America exists. And that is a place where girls can go and have the outdoor experience and thrive. And as a counterpart to the Scouting America, but there's also American Heritage Girls. We don't need to dilute one of those very few all-male spaces that are left here for boys to go and just have guy time. Because let's be honest, it changes. If you and I are hanging around at a campfire and a woman sits down and at that same campfire, the whole conversation has just changed, and it looks very, very different. And any guy knows that.
Well, that's true, and it's still, you're right, by the way. And I just looked. I popped up on here, girlscouts.org. They didn't change their name, did they?
They sure didn't.
So, double standard. What would you call this?
Well, it's just unfortunate. I really believe I'm an Eagle Scout. Scouting was an important part of my life growing up. It's a big part of how my dad and I built our relationship. It was kind of tense, but when we got outdoors with some other men and had experiences around campfires and learned how to build our relationship, it was paradigm shifting for us. And it was really, really good. And I'm afraid so many boys are missing that. I grew up with 4 sisters, Steve. And I have a great relationship with all 4 of my sisters. But if they would have come on that same camping trip with my dad and I, that dynamic would have been very, very different. And I don't think I would have the relationship with my dad that I do today.
You need real men in this world. You need dads, that's for sure. I can't argue with you. I can't argue with what you're telling me, Stephen. I mean, real men need to mentor boys. We need more men involved in the nuclear family. We need more dads stepping up. We need more of this toxic masculinity, which is nothing more than just being a man. We need a lot more of it, don't we?
Absolutely. Well, and culturally, 43% of boys are raised by a single mom. And if boys go to school, 78% of teachers are female. So where does a boy go to find someone who looks like him? I genuinely believe, Steve, that the feminist cry of the 70s and 80s, it said, "I don't want a man," turned into the women of the 90s and 2000s saying, I don't need a man, turned into the women of the 90s and 2000s saying, "I don't want a man," which has turned into too many boys today wondering if they should even be a man. There is a lack of that masculine role model for these boys to look to, and they're really getting confused and lost in all of this.
Correct. So it's not going to change back. Scouting America is the way it is. My son is in Scouts. It was the Boy Scouts when he joined. It's not anymore. And there are girls involved with it. But you make some valid points here.
And the shift happened. Really, I think around finances. There was a lot of they had a lot of land and money started playing in, and big business said you have to cave to this agenda, and so they began letting girls in, which turned into something I don't think they expected. I guess the first part was they couldn't define a boy anymore, so whatever you identified as a boy could be part of Scouting America. And at their jamborees, they began having boys and girls restrooms and started creeping into this area of what does it mean to be a boy. So I think they decided to allow girls into the program. And Roger Crone, when talking about the reason for the name change, he said our number one job is to get kids into the program. And I would say for us, looking at what's going on culturally, one of the fastest growing suicide rates in America, Steve, is boys between the ages of 10 and 14. And I genuinely believe these boys are starting to hit puberty, and they're trying to figure out what does it mean to be a man. And they're really getting confused by a culture that can't tell them the difference. There's nothing unique about you. Everywhere a boy goes, he's told to come inside and sit down and be still and do what he's told.
And behave like a good little girl.
And what he's learning is maybe I'm just a defective girl. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And Steve, there's nothing wrong with that boy. He is all boy. Boys need to be out in the woods, playing with swords, chasing dragons, doing man things, climbing trees. We told that story at a conference, and a woman in the front row started laughing. And we stopped for a minute. We said, "What's so funny?" She said, "Well, my boys don't just climb trees. They love climbing trees, but when they get to the top of the tree, they want to pee out of the tree." Girls don't do that. Boys and girls are just different.
So,
they're wired differently.
Peeing in public, or if I may be so bold, farting, these are things boys do, isn't it?
It is. It just is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make them defective, Steve. It just doesn't. It's not toxic. It's boyhood. We need that space.
I gotta get you to weigh in. I had somebody actually make a comment that could be, doing such things that you just described is bullying. That's how far gone these people are. What you just described is bullying. I'll give you the last word.
We've taken competition out of sports, and where do boys go to win and lose? And those are the things that make us come alive as men: risk and competition and winning and losing. And when we level that playing field, and the one place boys still get competition is in school, where they're not keeping up with girls. 60% of college is women now, and so we need a space to create strong, capable, confident men. And at Trail Life, that's what we're not about getting most kids in the program. We're about growing godly men, and that's what we need.
Trail Life USA, godly men. Trail Life USA, Stephen Ashton. Yes, they pee out of trees. They're boys. They do that when they're 12 and 14 years old. Stephen Ashton, thank you. You come back anytime.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. Still to come, Dr. Robert Malone is going to be here today. Dr. Robert Malone is going to be here for a half an hour coming up shortly. All right, let's keep it going now. Why U.S. cars are frozen out of the European market. We talk about tariffs a lot. By the way, the markets looks like another day where it could be down a little bit, but fairly even, but down a little bit. EU car sales to the United States 2024 totaled $44 billion. American car sales to Europe, $9 billion. $44 billion to $9 billion. Most people around the world either need or want to buy a car, but when it comes to choosing the model, American vehicles get short shrift. In other words, people outside the U.S. seem to shun buying U.S. vehicles. Instead, they'd rather buy their homegrown version. Or when we were in Costa Rica, you see a lot of Toyotas, a lot of them, right? In 2024, the U.S. imported 757,000 new cars made in the European Union. The EU, so 760,000, 760, less than 170,000 cars from America went that way. Yeah, it's true. It's the tariff that the EU places on vehicles, like a Tahoe. A Tahoe in the U.S., a starting list price about 60 grand. In Norway, the starting price is 100 grand. $40,000 on top of it. In France, it's $61,000. The Dodge Ram pickup truck, $235,000 US dollars in Norway. A $33,000 Ford Ranger in the U.S., $40,000 in France and Germany. I mean, you jack the price out of reach. In some cases, it's way out of reach. Yeah. So that's why the tariff war. That's why, now you know, that's why you have the tariff war. At any rate, what do we got? We got Dr. Robert Malone, author of War, Enforcing the New World Order, How the Deep State's Trying to Undercut RFK Jr. and President Trump and Make America Healthy Again. It's all coming up. Robert Malone will be here for half an hour. You want to check it out. You want to tell your friends and follow us on Facebook today. That's your assignment. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it. Good to have you here for the conversation. Look, my next guest, he was one of the people that was the most silenced during the COVID pandemic, whatever that all was. Dr. Robert Malone is the author of War, Enforcing the New World Order, and now he says one of his good friends, Bobby Kennedy, is being targeted for, well, he's being maligned, he's being attacked, he's getting a lot of that treatment. Dr. Malone, welcome back to the program. Nice to see you again, sir.
Good to see you, Steve, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, let's talk about, let me ask you about something that just popped up here in the last few days and yesterday. Bobby Kennedy, your friend, a guy I got to know real well in 2024, did a lot of work with him. He was on this program a lot, did a 2-hour town hall with him back in September. By the way, you guys can go find that on YouTube and watch it. Fascinating conversation for 2 hours. But he came out and said, look, they have set themselves on a course that he believes he can find the cause of autism by the end of summer, early fall. I mean, that's quite a statement, doctor. What do you make of that?
So it is, how do I say this gently? It is a very aggressive, optimistic projection that came out in the context of that. Yeah, bold. Bold is a good word. Very bold prediction, and I hope that he's able to achieve it. The thinking is that this can occur in part because of big data analytic capabilities and access to CDC databases and FDA databases that have previously been more challenging to access and to analyze. But he's also said in the press conference that he's going to drop quite a bit of money in terms of federal funding for academia to dive into this issue and try to sort out what other causes may exist. I think that autism, the evidence suggests that it's multifactorial, and multifactorial disease is really hard to sort out.
Absolutely true. Look, it's environmental, and it's not going to be an easy thing to solve, but he's not wrong about the fact that we've gone from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in, less than 100, whatever that number is exactly. I'm not sure, but it's less than 100. I mean, autism is one of the mysteries of our age when it comes to medicine, isn't it?
How do I say this? Yeah, you could say it's a mystery, or you could say that it's something that has all the signs of having been obscured. There are data indicating.
You know what I hear? You know what I hear when I hear you say that, doctor? Somebody was making money somewhere, and they didn't want to admit that the money that they were making was damaging to the population. That's what I'm sifting out of what you just said there. Am I wrong?
I think that you're probably right. And there may be multiple stakeholders here that have investments. There's one of the things that's happened, Steve, across the whole spectrum of mental disease in youth is the consequence of perverse incentives that have been created by the federal government, subsidies that go to the schools, go to the students, et cetera. If they are diagnosed as having hyperactivity disorder, autism, or other behavioral problems. And so the schools have an incentive to have these diagnoses. The mental health profession has an incentive to have these diagnoses. It appears that there are incentives, obviously, for those pharmaceutical companies that manufacture drugs to treat these childhood disorders want to see the diagnosis expanded and the population expanded. There's a whole lot of interest groups here that benefit from the current consensus and state of affairs. And then there's no denying, as Bobby points out, that this more severe form of autism, the head banging and toe walking, incontinence, those kinds of things that didn't exist when I was a child, they just weren't there, are now increasingly common. And that's what the alarming new data are that come out of CDC, that in fact, this is a continuing trend. It's continued to get more prevalent since the last report of a couple of years ago. And yet there has been this strange harmony within corporate media to deny these trends and to downplay these trends and to ridicule anyone who is speaking about these trends.
All right, I'm going to give my prediction here, all right? My non-medical layman prediction is simply this, and maybe I'm out to lunch, but I believe that this epidemic, and this is actually an epidemic of autism, is going to be linked in some way to PFAS and PFOAs and these forever chemicals that have totally filled our environment, from popcorn bags to water repellent to, I mean, you name it, these PFOAs, these PFAS chemicals. They're ubiquitous in our environment. They're found in polar bears, and I don't think polar bears ever got a pizza delivered. So these chemicals are everywhere. There's been a prevalence of this from 3M and others, and we'll see where this leads, but that's my guess. Do you think I'm out to lunch on that?
So, Steve, what you're pointing out is one of the potential environmental toxins. Another one is glyphosate, the chemical that Bobby historically won that big case against Monsanto for. And there are solid data in rodent models, in particular pregnant rodents, having to do with maternal exposure to glyphosate at levels that are equivalent to what are being seen in the urine of pregnant women, that are associated with two outcomes in the pups. One is an autism-like behavior, and the other is obesity. So that's what points to the challenge here in terms of sorting this out. Is we have so many different environmental toxins, microplastics being another one.
Sure.
That it's going to be very difficult data-wise because you don't really have any good controls.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard to sort out cause and effect when you have multiple potential toxins and other things having to do with pharmaceuticals, which might include vaccines, for example.
Right. What? Vaccines, antidepressants, ADHD drugs, just like you talked about, a whole host of drugs out there. Statin drugs, some people think they're good, some people think they're terrible. You know, there's a lot of debate out there when it comes to pharmaceuticals, but what it comes back to, doctor, and Bobby Kennedy said this: a sick child is the most valuable asset in the world to a pharmaceutical company. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I mean, that's a gold mine to them. We got about 30 seconds before we hit the break, but I'd like you to weigh in on that.
So the point, and Bobby's made this previously, this is not a recent point that he made, perhaps he did in your interview, that anybody that has chronic disease is a gold mine for the pharmaceutical industry that markets products. It's not just children.
And the sooner you can get them on using drugs or surgery or being involved in the medical community, the more money you can make. Dr. Robert Malone, hold that thought. We got a lot more to talk about here. We're trying to make America healthy again. We need your help, my friends. Dr. Robert Malone with us. We'll be right back. Dr. Robert Malone stays with me now. He's here, and we're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Make America Healthy Again, doctor, and the different things. Now, you were one of the folks that were deplatformed, canceled, silenced, however you want to look at that, during the COVID pandemic because you questioned the vaccines. I questioned the vaccines. I wasn't deplatformed like you were, but I was certainly shadow banned. I had no reach whatsoever because we said, wait a second. It doesn't seem to be working here. It doesn't. It's untested. It doesn't make sense. Now, I want to talk about measles because this is one of the things that we apparently get vaccinated for. But there's this big outcry about measles. They're trying to hang this around Bobby's neck because of some cases in Texas. But I just watched this clip. I think a lot of people have seen this now. The Brady Bunch, 1969. Bobby gets the measles. He gets to stay home from school, has a mild fever, and everything's fine. He stays home and plays games. Today, my God, measles is like the Grim Reaper. It's going to come and destroy everybody. Are the German measles of 2025 any more virulent or dangerous than the measles of 1969?
So you're talking about German measles, which is a different virus. So the main measles virus that we're talking about in this West Texas outbreak is very stable genetically. So this is the same virus. There have been some changes in the American population because most people now are vaccinated. They aren't naturally infected, except for those of a certain age like myself.
Right.
But the vaccines are live attenuated measles virus, which has the implication and the fact that increasing numbers of people are getting measles from the vaccine. This is in the current Ottawa outbreak. This is a large fraction of the cases, and that's the truth worldwide. So it's a live attenuated vaccine, yet it still doesn't provide the same level of protection that the actual infection does in terms of the longevity, or the vaccine word is durability.
But wait a second, doctor. Regardless of which strain of measles it is, we vaccinate. Why do we have all these cases if we're vaccinating? Are these what you would call breakthrough cases? Like I heard that term first with COVID. You have breakthrough infections. What's going on?
So there are breakthrough cases with measles because of what I was saying about the measles vaccine being less effective than natural immunity. But what's happened here in West Texas is a classic situation that happens all over the world. We historically have had outbreaks like this in the U.S., and in this case, it's a Mennonite community that doesn't accept pediatric vaccines. So there's a Mennonite community in West Texas that doesn't accept vaccines. And according to community members, there was a immigrant, undefined as to whether legal or illegal, family that came into their community and brought with them measles. And then it spread rapidly through their children in particular. And the community in general. And for the most part, it is the local physicians have been managing this quite well. Most of these cases resolve, as was the case in the 60s, without any medical intervention. And for those people that have some pre-existing conditions or risk factors, physicians have once again determined that there's some drugs that can be used, repurposed drugs, that really help these people get through their symptoms if they have more severe symptoms. Then the surrounding community in West Texas that is more vaccinated is also having breakthrough infections. But this all came to fore right at the time when RFK Jr. was confirmed. And there were press reports that were basically suggesting that with Bobby's confirmation as Secretary of HHS, we were going to have more vaccine hesitancy and more outbreaks like this West Texas outbreak, which is absurd because the Mennonites not accepting vaccines has absolutely nothing to do with Bobby Kennedy or Children's Health Defense or any of that narrative. They do it for their own reasons. And then what really popped was, as reported in the New York Times and PBS repeatedly,
right,
2 young girls died. And the narrative, of course, immediately was these 2 young girls died of measles. But then people dug into the actual medical records, and in both cases, what the girls died of was a pneumonia. In the first case, it was mycoplasma pneumonia. In the second case, it was a hospital-acquired
So the point being is,
resistant.
so here's what I want to get to. We've only got a couple minutes left here. I want to make sure Bobby Kennedy is doing, pulling back the cover and the curtain, if you will, on some things that need to be looked at. These girls did not die from measles. That was turned out to be false, is what you just told me. The media gins it up to have this narrative against Bobby Kennedy. He's their target, isn't he? They just don't like him. They want to discredit him because the Kennedy family or somebody else doesn't like him. And the pharmaceutical industry certainly doesn't like him. Is he able to do his work? Go ahead.
The thing that bothers me most about all of this is who is behind this?
Right.
Why do you see this coordination in corporate media? And I've been hit by various reporters, including from West Texas. And what I find is they have completely assimilated this narrative, as did the physicians that were treating these two young girls, that measles is a highly lethal disease, that this is a big thing to be afraid of, and that the vaccine is fully protective and safe. It's the same narrative that we saw coming out with COVID that was repeatedly reinforced and once again was false. And so what we're seeing is kind of a replay of this whole belief system that all vaccines are safe and fully effective, as opposed to recognizing that they're not perfect. They're like any other drug.
So, Doctor, what they're doing here is the holy grail are vaccines. And if you don't kneel at the altar of the vaccines, there's something wrong with you. You should be silenced. You should be taken out of civilized society. That's what they're telling us. I got to leave it there. It's too bad. We've got a lot more to cover, Doctor. I want you to come back. There's so much to cover with what the media does to Bobby, to you, to misinform the American people. Dr. Robert Malone, I greatly appreciate you as always. The book, you can pick it up. It's called Psy-War, P-S-Y, War, Psy-War, Enforcing the New World Order. They're trying awfully hard, Doctor. We need more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Really appreciate it. Man, I just feel like I could talk to him for the next 2 hours and become better educated about all these games that are being played. I'll be right back.
We can't see tomorrow.
All right, time to check in on sports with my good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The NBA's play-in tournament continued last night with the 9th versus 10th place games. In the East, the Miami Heat eliminated the Chicago Bulls with a 109-90 victory in Chicago. Tyler Hero led the Heat with 38 points. Miami will play the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow night in Atlanta for the 8th seed in the East. Out west, the Dallas Mavericks beat the Sacramento Kings 120-106 in Sacramento. Anthony Davis led the Mavericks with 27 points. The Mavs will play the Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow night in Memphis for the 8th seed in the West. In the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens clinched the final playoff spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs with a 4-2 victory at home over Carolina. Other winners last night were Detroit, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Nashville, and Vegas. And in Major League Baseball, American League winners included Toronto, Minnesota, and Seattle. National League winners included Milwaukee, San Diego, and the LA Dodgers. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
I'm going to get you more on this in a minute, but Kilmar Abrejo Garcia, Senor Kilmar Abrejo Garcia, stopped in Tennessee. This is the guy that was deported to El Salvador. The guy that is the hero for the left right now. The guy that is the poster child of Donald Trump's administration is evil for the left. From Just the News, I get this. Kilmar Abrejo Garcia stopped in Tennessee driving with an expired driver's license, subject of a domestic abuse protective order from his wife. And now she's making TV appearances and participating in fundraising efforts. She's also netted over $250,000 so far. Flagged in 2022 by the Biden administration as a suspect alien, possibly involved in human smuggling and trafficking. After a traffic stop hundreds of miles from his Maryland home, according to the Department of Homeland Security documents reviewed by Just the News. Kilmar Abrejo Garcia stopped in Tennessee for driving erratically and speeding by a state trooper late November 2022. Found to be driving an SUV full of people coming from Texas with an expired Maryland license. Subject was observed speeding and unable to maintain its lane, was subsequently pulled over. Encountering officer decided not to cite the subject for driving infractions, but gave him a warning citation for driving with an expired driver's license. Oh, yeah. The more you learn, the more you know, the more you know, the more you say, yeah, he got deported. He deserved it. I'll take a break and be back. Here we go, launching another brand new hour. It's a hell of a bottle rocket we just lit here. It's the Steve Gruber Show heading into another hour here. Glad you're here. Remember, this is the Foxhole of Freedom, fighting for you every single day. And here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Michigan court says you can address lawmakers, but you might not be able to address them out loud. I don't know. Where's this freedom of speech thing? Number two, Enbridge, Line 5 in the tunnel project. A green light, a bit, anyhow, from the Army Corps. We'll talk about that. And number three, the field of candidates is growing that want to be the next governor of the state of Michigan. Former Republican Attorney General Mike Cox launching his campaign for governor. In a post on X, Cox said 8 years of Governor Gretchen Whitmer has made Michigan weaker, poorer, and less free. He's right on every account. I've protected people my entire life, fought and beat the worst of the worst. Let's not stand by and let radical politicians or woke bureaucrats undermine us any longer. I'm running to be your governor, and together we can make Michigan great again. He was the Attorney General from 2003 through 2010. He's been out of the race and out of the, the spotlight for a long time. Others include John James, the congressman, Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, and Anthony Hudson, who's running for governor to eliminate property and state income taxes. Democrats trying to be the governor, Jocelyn Benson, Garland Gilchrist, and Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson. I don't know. We'll see. But I look forward to having Mike Cox here on the program and having him lay out his. I mean, he served in state government for a number of years as the Attorney General, so we'll see what he can tell us about his race to be the next chief executive of the state, all right? So, and Enbridge, I'm going to tell you this. I spoke to the Enbridge folks yesterday. They say they're pleased about the announcement from the Army Corps of Engineers. Currently working to establish an updated timeline for its permit review under the emergency procedures. So they're trying to push it forward. But the folks at Enbridge say, well, it's fairly ambiguous. Don't know how quickly it's going to move anything forward. They still expect the progress to proceed in 2026 in the permitting to be fully taken care of by next year, maybe around this time. So they're optimistic moving forward, but they don't think this is going to tremendously speed up the process. So we'll see. The big story, though, continues to be this illegal alien that was deported to El Salvador, right? And the question is, whose side are you on, right? Kilmar Abrejo Garcia, labeled as a wife beater and an MS-13 gang member. He's a citizen of the nation of El Salvador, where he was sent. And yet, the Democrats are standing up to defend him every step of the way. Well, let me share something with you here from Just the News. Kilmar Abrejo Garcia stopped in Tennessee driving with an expired driver's license, 2022. Subject of a domestic abuse protective order requested by his wife, records show. Now she's making television appearances. They've raised $250,000. But it gets more interesting. During the interview, during the traffic stop, December 6, 2022, the subject pretended, this is Senor Garcia, pretended to speak less English than he actually was capable of. Kept asking questions when questions were asked. No luggage in the vehicle. The officer believed the suspect was involved in human trafficking at the time because they said they were coming back from Texas, a load of people in the car, no luggage. The initial review determined that Abrejo Garcia was a suspect alien, referred his matter for review to Passport Control. 3 weeks later, Homeland updated its record to urge all personnel who encountered Abrejo Garcia in the future to escort to secondary a term referring to the investigative procedures used when someone suspected of wrongdoing is encountered at a port of entry or by Border Patrol agents. The Biden administration's flagging of Abrejo Garcia on suspicions of human trafficking and human smuggling adds to a growing body of evidence that the man at the center of one of the most significant deportation cases in modern history wasn't the peaceful, law-abiding dad from Maryland, as his wife and lawyers have claimed in the news media while they're raising piles of money. On Wednesday, DHS released a court filing showing Abrejo Garcia's wife sought domestic violence restraining orders against him a year before the traffic stop, May 2021. The document signed by a judge described allegations of violent encounters. The case eventually dismissed when the wife, Jennifer Vasquez, refused to appear in court. That's the way these things often go. Separate records released by Attorney General Pam Bondi show Abrejo Garcia admitted to authorities 2019 that he entered the United States illegally, had no basis for seeking asylum, and that Maryland police positively identified him as a member of the MS-13 criminal gang. Yeah. And despite the claim that he assaulted her 4 years ago, Vasquez is now publicly defending Abrejo Garcia, urging the Trump administration to stop playing political games, return her husband to Maryland. Our family's torn apart. Now, what this is a fundraising scheme. He's never coming back. She knows that. He's not coming out of that prison. He's not coming out of CCOT. He's never coming back. Ever. Oh, they've raised $250,000 that she'll get to keep. Senator Chris Van Hollen ran to El Salvador to try to meet with the MS-13 gang member and told to go home. Here's what he said yesterday.
So I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrejo Garcia. And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT. I said, I'm not interested at this moment in taking a tour of CCOT. I just want to meet with Mr. Abrejo Garcia. He said he was not able to make that happen. He said he need a little more time. I asked him if I came back next week, whether I'd be able to see Mr. Abrejo Garcia. He said he couldn't promise that either. So I asked him if I could get on the phone, either video phone or just a phone, and talk to Mr. Abrejo Garcia. So I could just ask him how he's doing so I could report back to his family. He said he could not arrange that. He said maybe if the American embassy were to ask, maybe that could happen. So I will certainly ask the American embassy to ask the government of El Salvador to connect us by phone. I asked him how about his family? How can he talk to his wife so that she can hear his voice? I let him know that the family has requested that. He said he was not sure whether he could make that happen.
Yeah. You were told to go home, Senator. Go home. Nobody cares what you're bumping your gums about. Nobody cares about your alleged concerns about an MS-13 gang member. By the way, though, the Judge Boasberg now trying to hold Donald Trump in contempt over deportation flights. This is not how it works. Federal district judges don't get to attack the President of the United States and demand this or that or hold contempt hearings or whatever. Boasberg is way out of his lane, and I don't care who he was appointed by. He's wrong, out of his lane, period. Coming up, Representative Tom Coons of Michigan's House of Representatives. The road funding plan will be front and center when we come back on the Steve Gruber Show. right, how do we fix the roads in Michigan? Maybe you do it by hiding behind your blue folder in the Oval Office. No, that's not it. Sorry. My mistake. You can't do it hiding your face in the Oval Office. You can do it by hiding the facts from the Michigan voters and taxpayers, though, I believe. Tom Kuntz is here with me, state representative from the Michigan House of Representatives, District 100. Tom, where is that again?
That is Clare over to Reed City down to Big Rapids.
That's a lovely piece of real estate.
That isn't. It's home. That's a great place to be.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece of real estate. All right, so the road funding plan, we've heard a lot about it. Look, Governor Whitmer was going to fix the damn roads. She blew through a $9 billion surplus, wanted to raise taxes, tries to raise taxes again, wants more money even though they can't take care of the money they already have. We spend $35 billion more a year than the state of Pennsylvania to run this state. Makes no sense. How are we going to get there and get this thing finally taken care of? Because what we learned here recently is that 1 to 1.5% of the road miles in Michigan have been repaired. And let me see, over 6 years, that's 9% of the roads. That's it.
Right. And I can't believe this was her signature thing. This is what she ran on, her top legislative goal. She proposes a 45-cent gas tax, which is laughable. I mean, that would make Michigan just uninhabitable, which may be their direction anyways. The budget has gone up billions of dollars, $30 billion we spend more in Michigan than we did in 2018. Since Governor Whitmer took office, and this isn't one-time money. This isn't one-time federal COVID money. You know, we're back to spending our own taxpayers' money, and now they don't want to fund the roads. Michigan is 10th in road miles, 10th in population, and we're 30th in road funding. So The problem is not a revenue problem. We just spend too much on other stuff.
You know, the big report just came out here on tax day. Rich state, poor state. All right? Well, and guess who got wealthier? Ohio, Indiana, Iowa. You know who got poorer, Tom? We did. We got rid of right to work. We raised taxes. States like New Hampshire got rid of their income tax altogether on January 1st. We raised ours. I mean, do the people in Lansing, are they incapable of looking to places like Tennessee and say, hey, look, they got rid of their income tax. What's going on in Tennessee? Boom times. What's going on in Indiana? Well, they're building a brand new Honda plant down there. They're not building it in Michigan, the car capital of the world. They're not building it here. Weird, right?
Yep. And it boggles my mind that there's so many other examples of success. The top 10 growth states, the top bottom growth states, and right to work is the key. Income tax is the key. And we're going the wrong way.
Well, infrastructure is another big part of it, as you know. Correct. So the roads are key. Tax structure is key. Impediments to business key. But the infrastructure, the roads, the way people get around. Look, we're the car capital of the world. We should have the best roads in the world. And yet, you know, I drive out of Michigan and go to other states, even states that are supposed to be poor, they have better roads than we do. Frankly, it's embarrassing.
It is. And this is, the key is we have $3.1 billion. We came up with $3.1 billion annually, and it doesn't raise taxes. We are committed to not raising taxes. Let's just reallocate the money we have. We don't need new money. Now, of course, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle disagree. They have some taxes planned for it. But you've said it, Steve. It just makes Michigan less attractive. It makes it harder to do business here.
So here's the question. It's a question. One of the listeners just asked this, and I think it's a question that a lot of us have asked. You know, you go and you blow through your paycheck. It's Monday morning. Your head hurts. What'd you get out of it? Where's the money? What'd you spend it on? All right. So Michigan has a $9 billion hangover right now. What do we have to show for it? What did we get out of this deal?
You know, we do have an LGBTQ barbershop quartet. We have a splash pad. I think there is a polo field down in Detroit somewhere. So, I mean, really integral parts that, infrastructure that I'm sure the taxpayers really want to support.
What you're saying is we don't have a damn thing to show for blowing through $9 billion. $9 billion. I mean, this is $9 billion, and we don't have a new highway. We don't have a new bridge. We don't have some new, trophy for the government that they built a building or something. No, we have buildings sitting empty in Lansing that we're paying for. We have, just outside of where these studios that I sit in are, You drive down the road, you're lucky you don't knock fillings out of your head. The potholes are so bad. And these are not, highways, but they're secondary main roads all around me. Just horrible roads.
Right. And that's why we're trying to fund the roads. Our funding goes 10% to MDOT, 90% to local roads. Counties, cities, that's where they're going to handle the roads. The part, even if you want to say,
crazy idea at you. Hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. Let me throw one crazy idea. What if we privatized the road repairs? What if we took it away from MDOT and said, look, private companies, build us a road that'll last 25 years or more, do it at a price that's better than what we're paying right now, and guarantee it.
Right. Competition is a good thing. I love competition. That's what makes efficiency. And we don't have it now.
But we can't privatize it either, because then, you'll be the political antichrist, right? I mean that.
Oh, there we go. Right. Yeah, the sacred cow. So
right.
Even if we would have taken that $9 billion and paid off some of our debt, don't even build new roads. We've run up the credit card. We bonded a bunch of money. We being the governor, they didn't pay off debt. They didn't do anything on the road. So incredibly disappointing. And now to sit here and criticize our plan without offering up a plan. So that just boggles my mind.
We're still paying for roads that turned to dust 10 or 15 years ago. We are. We're still paying for roads that have been resurfaced and refilled and redone 25 times since then. Tom, I wish you the best. I don't envy your position, but we've got to get those fixed. I hope this road repair plan actually works this time. I hope you guys got it dialed in. I do. Hope is not a plan, but I plan to support you guys to get it done. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Appreciate that. I'm optimistic. We're going to get it done.
I hope you do. All right.
There you go.
As
Thanks, sir.
Hope is not a plan, but I plan to support these guys because what we've been trying before has been an abject failure. Ken Cuccinelli's up next, and then Ivy, of course. It's a beautiful day here in the studios. I'll be right back. So here's a headline, and I'm gonna pop it right open for you right here. Mark Zuckerberg offered the Federal Trade Commission $1 billion to avoid this antitrust trial that started on Monday of this week. That's the headline. I don't have the rest of the story yet, but it'll be coming in here. $1 billion. Yeah, $1 billion he offered to avoid trial. Meanwhile, over in New York, Elise Stefanik, who was nominated to be the United Nations ambassador and then withdrew because that seat is so important to the Republicans having the majority they need to get work done. She's now decided that she's running to be governor of the state of New York. Yeah, governor of the state of New York, which is pretty big job. She's going to take on Hochul, the hopeless Hochul. Meanwhile, the former governor, Cuomo, is running for mayor of New York City. Ah, what a twisted web we weave. Isn't it a twisted web we weave? This part of the program brought to you by my good friends at Wolverine Water Systems. Paul Mahaney and his friends will bring you over and have you Enjoy the greatest water of your life. Wolverine Water Systems has been around for 75 years. It's Michigan-made, Michigan people, manufacturing, selling, installing, and all working right here with us. Support the home team. WolverineWaterSystems.com is the home team. Great Lakes Pet Food, another home team favorite. Yeah, they make the greatest dog food ever. Cody turned 16 this week, 16 years old. And for the last 5 or 6 years, she's been eating nothing but Great Lakes Pet Food. It's wonderful Michigan-made dog food, not Chinese junk, all right? So go get some Great Lakes Pet Food. Go to GreatLakesPetFood.com, and you can find out a whole lot more. Ken Cuccinelli's up next, the chairman of Election Transparency Initiative, the SAVE Act. What does he think about it? What does he think about what's going on in Washington altogether? We'll check in with him in just a moment. Well, the bipartisan SAVE Act. Bipartisan. Yes, some Democrats were smart enough to realize that if they didn't get on board with this, their political futures would be over. Meanwhile, a lot of Democrats are committing suicide on the hill of Abreu Garcia today. That's fine. Die on that hill, that political hill. Tell America you want MS-13 gang bangers and wife beaters to come back to America. That you want them to be your neighbors. Democrats, please repeat that every single day. And have Jasmine Crockett holler it and have Chris Van Hollen yell it. I support your efforts. Free speech, which is the beauty of free speech right there. Continue to prove to the world that you're complete idiots. That you are complete idiots. The SAVE Act, by the way. On the heels of President Donald Trump's landmark executive order to protect the integrity of American elections, the U.S. House passed bipartisan legislation to help codify its central citizenship verification requirement. First passed by the House in 2024, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, the SAVE Act, would amend the National Voter Registration Act to require that states obtain documentary proof of U.S. citizenship from individuals and verify their identities in person when they get registered, and not just online. You know, there's a lot of this in-person verification going on. It's also happening at the Social Security Administration. Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman of Election Transparency Initiative, joins me now. Ken, good to have you back.
Hey, it's good to be with you. Good morning, and appreciate you taking up this important subject.
Well, it is important. Now, where are we in the process? Give me an update here. It got out of the House. Where is it in the process?
So it got out of the House. 4 Democrats voted for it. 5 voted for it last September when it was first proposed. So I was surprised to see the number go down. I have to say I was disappointed in that. And those Democrats defended their votes, basically saying, look, it's just common sense to require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, which is all we're saying at the Election Transparency Initiative. So now it goes over to the Senate, and there is a question whether it'll go to committee or not. It may go straight to the Senate floor. That's being debated behind closed doors by senators. Mitch McConnell leads the Rules Committee, and he would like it to come to his committee. But there is also, as I said, discussion about voting on it straight away right on the Senate floor. So,
I mean, in fairness, would Mitch McConnell know it came to his committee or not? Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I hear you. And I will say elections is something he's been pretty good on, but not necessarily securing them. He's more interested in campaign finance over the years. That's Mitch McConnell's
Yeah, financing
idea
his own campaigns. I mean, let's be honest here. Financing his own campaigns, he's been concerned about. The rest of it, not so much. Here's the question, because I am baffled by Senator Chris Van Hollen, for example, running down to El Salvador to demand the release of an MS-13 gang member who apparently beat his wife regularly, was stopped by state troopers in other states in what appeared to be, I think it was Tennessee he was stopped, in what appeared to be human trafficking of people from the Texas border, right? So when it comes to all of that, I do not expect Democrats to vote for the SAVE Act in the United States Senate. So then they're going to filibuster to say that they prefer that nobody has to prove that. I mean, these are the political hills these people are willing to die on. Ken, I just, me personally, I don't understand it because the American people, this is a 90-10 issue. It really is.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with that confusion. I really thought, so look back to September, 5 Democrats voted for this in the House. I really expected to see 40 of them, not 4, vote for it this go around. I thought they'd learn lessons from the last election where Donald Trump stomped them on immigration, just stomped them on immigration and on security of our nation, our border, and frankly, our elections. And they don't appear to have learned any lessons, and they don't know how to proceed forward. So yes, you're right. It's going to be hard to get the 7 Democrats to get over the filibuster threshold. So then we're going to have to start asking our Republican senators to attach the SAVE Act to must-pass legislation, something like the annual defense bill that every senator wants to vote for. But I'm not convinced our Republicans will do that. So I'd urge all your listeners to contact their Republican senators and say, look, if you can't get this over the 60 vote threshold, we need you to put it on must pass legislation so we can finally get the security of our elections reserved to U.S. citizens. And that just doesn't seem like too much to ask.
You know, and that's why when you have elections for open Senate seats in places like Minnesota, New Hampshire, and here in my home state of Michigan, those seats are critical for the Republicans if you can win one or two. And look, I'm disappointed that Chris Sununu is not running in New Hampshire. He's not exactly exchanging Christmas cards with Donald Trump, but he'd be better than the alternative. And once again, he bows out of this race, a race that he would surely win. It's odd to me there as well. Republicans need to band together to push through common sense, and because the Democrats will band together for stupidity. They'll band together behind an El Salvadoran gang member.
Do it. Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. And, you know, they didn't learn anything from the last election. Politically, I'm grateful for that. But when it comes to making America a better, safer, more secure place, you know, they have a role to play here, and they're abandoning their responsibilities.
Well, Ken, in fairness, so are a lot of the Republicans. If they don't attach this to a must-pass piece of legislation, like you said, I mean, is there money involved? Could this be part of the one big beautiful bill? I don't know if the Save Act would qualify to be attached to one big beautiful bill that's going through. I mean, because when it comes to reconciliation, there are rules, and some things would apply and some would not. Would this qualify?
Yeah, I think you'd have at least a few Republican senators who would say, "Oh, no," and they'd gnash their fingers, their teeth, and rub their fingers together, and they'd be all worried about the parliamentarian who was an immigration lawyer, by the way. The Senate parliamentarian was a left-wing immigration lawyer before she was the parliamentarian of the Senate. So you can guess how she's going to rule. And they treat those rulings as gospel. And so they literally turn the issue over to a former left-wing immigration attorney to decide whether this should be part of the bill. And Republican senators let her do it. They let her do it. So they're going to have to put it as part of must-pass legislation, or likely we're never going to get this security for our elections across the country.
And we got to have
and this would be a big boon.
You know, we got to have it. You know, it's interesting that when they say there was never any illegals that voted, oh, here's 2 dozen that voted. Well, it was only 2 dozen. You said none. First you said none, and now, well, it's only 2 dozen that voted. You see, they don't care about the truth. It has always been the plan, Ken, to allow illegal aliens to vote in this country. That has always been the plan. You see it in New York City. You see it in California. This has always been the scheme, and they're trying to get there.
You don't have to look. You don't have to look to the states. Look at H.R. 1 that they tried to ram through back in 2021 and 2022. It had 3 provisions that are related here. 1. It mandated that all adults, note I say adults and not citizens, that come in contact with state databases be dumped onto the voter rolls.
That's
automatically
right. Number 2,
vote.
Got to get this quickly.
Number two, they removed penalties for any non-citizen voting who is registered in that fashion.
And number
3, they created a new crime that was directed at state and local officials that if you interfered with someone's right to vote, very vaguely worded,
then
you were
you're the
subject
criminal.
to federal
Yeah,
criminal
you're
penalties.
the criminal. Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman, Election Transparency Initiative, up against a hard break. Keep sounding the alarm, Ken. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you.
It comes to the best part of the program every single day, and I go, whoa. And the birds fly, and the angels sing, and the trumpets play. And Ivy sits down with a big smile on her face. She says, hey, good morning. Good morning, Ivy.
Good morning, Steve. Happy to be here.
Isn't it great? Tomorrow is Good Friday. And then, of course, Easter Sunday, when Christ rose and gave us all our lives back, I suppose, right?
What a wonderful time to celebrate our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of my favorite holidays for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, we love it because the snow is gone for the most part by Easter, and
yeah, right.
Spring is returning, and the flowers are starting to pop.
I think for me, it's that there's always a third day. There's always, the sun will always shine, even in darkest times.
Yeah.
And I think that
you've said that ever since I've known you. There's always going to be a third day. There's always going to be a chance to rise again, to fight again, to stand up again, to dust yourself off, no matter what goes wrong. There's always a third day.
If you have faith, nothing is impossible for you.
That's right. What's on your mind today?
You know, speaking of all this positive thinking, I really want to try to bring some positive news stories. Let's try to have a little fun. We are every day talking about all
serious
the negativity that is happening in our country, which is serious and should be taken seriously. But we have to remember to celebrate positive things and don't forget, have fun, smile, laugh.
That's right. What do you got? Something fun? Something happy?
This is kind of interesting. A team of high school students from Bentonville West High School in Arkansas.
Arkansas? Yeah.
Arkansas developed an oral scan, a smartphone app that utilizes artificial intelligence to detect signs of oral cancer.
For real?
Yeah. The app analyzes photos taken with a smartphone and delivers results in just 15 seconds, achieving an 82% accuracy rate in identifying tumors and 87% accuracy in staging them.
And that's what I just talked about here earlier with Mark Beckman in the first hour of the program today, AI and all the good, there's some downside, but all the good things it can do in health.
Absolutely.
So I wonder how this works. So they developed this
You take a picture of your mouth.
Got it.
Open your mouth wide, and you take multiple pictures of inside your mouth, and then the images go through an AI software that detect any type of, weird abnormalities. Thank you, that are happening in your mouth, and then it sends you back a message. Hey, you need to consider getting this reviewed.
Go see your doctor, right?
Correct.
So did they make money off this?
They did, actually. They did. Their innovation earned them $50,000 in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition, and they're going to a finals.
Come on, 50 grand? That's a $50 million, $50 billion deal.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible little piece of it. If you think about it, the AI is going to really change the way that we diagnose issues.
Okay, so let's extrapolate that further. Why wouldn't that be? Here's something that is very common. Having a mole looked at. Do I have skin cancer?
I was thinking about that too. You could
take the picture.
For sure, you could certainly stand in front of a camera or take a picture of yourself, and it can analyze.
Right.
Of course, that is not the only thing that you should do after you take your pictures and the AI gives you some sort of feedback. You should then consult your dentist or your doctor or whomever to then say, okay, yes, the findings are indeed accurate, but it's a great tool for doctors to use for sure.
We need to go invent the other parts. Come on.
What if I asked you, what am I passionate about? What am I obsessed about? What would you say?
You're obsessed about health, well-being, food. Which is they're kind of
nutrition.
Connected. They're kind of connected because you're very conscientious about the food that we eat around this house. You have been for as long as you've been around, 14 years, whatever it's been now.
Yeah.
So food, health, and how those things connect. I think you're very passionate about that. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things, yes, you are right. And one of the reasons that I love hunting so much, and I was not a hunter before I met you, but I
You're
love
welcome.
that field to table. You know where your food comes from.
Yep.
You take it to a processor who which is a small, a small local company, or you do it yourself,
from
or
our friends, or a lamb, because we've got
Exactly.
Alex, our good friend, has a great farm, and we know where everything comes from, how it's handled. Go ahead.
And so I have big aspirations for our garden this year. But
you do?
I do. Yeah, we have to start thinking about it now. But I think that it's going to be interesting what kind of apps are developed in the future within the next probably year in terms of what should you eat. Can you take a picture of your food and it analyzes it and it says, hey, this is really healthy for you, this is not. And then also,
That's brilliant.
Based on your like genetic structure, what food should you be eating, and based on all of that data, putting it into an app, and then you're going to be able to optimize what you eat, how you eat it, when to eat it, just based on all of the data points that you can put in. And I just think that is an incredible program.
Somebody's listening right now. They're going to go make $1 bazillion off that. We're going to get doodly out of it. By the way, let's, while we're playing the dating game, though, what's my favorite vegetable, do you think? If I had one to choose and dinner was laid out, what would it be?
Brussels sprouts.
You got it. We win the dating game. There it is.
Oh, that's funny. So I have one more. There was an 81-year-old waitress who could not retire, and a stranger, a patron, went into her place of business, and the woman and her were chatting, and she's a TikToker. Her name is Tammy Gunzire, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She's a Pittsburgh-based esthetician and TikToker. She spoke to this 81-year-old woman named Betty, who was a server there, and she had just, kind of voiced her complaints. I'm older, I can't retire, I don't make enough money, I just really wish I could. So this woman felt very passionate about Betty and started a GoFundMe, put out a TikTok video regarding her. It went viral. She ended up raising $300,000 for this woman.
Applause.
And she actually got with a... Yeah, I think that's such a cool story. Yeah. And she got with like a legal attorney and put her money in a trust, and so that it's protected from the IRS and all this sort of thing. But she really went above and beyond to help others, and I just love that.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Great story. It's kind of fun bringing those positive stories.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ivy. Love you.
I love you.
All right, there you have it. We'll have some final thoughts on the program in just a moment. Brand new polling now from CNN. I thought I'd share this with you. Here's the question. Should we deport all illegal aliens? When the question was asked in 2016, 38% of Americans said yes, deport them all. Today, 56% say deport them all. So Democrats, please keep doing exactly what you're doing. Keep supporting and fighting for MS-13 gangbangers. Please. Please keep fighting for the illegals. Please. Keep fighting for these criminals. Please. Please tell us that a Maryland father who beat his wife and was involved in human trafficking and was a member of MS-13, that his life is more important than the people you're going to park him next to in the neighborhood. Please. Keep doing that. I have complete support of that. You are on the wrong side of this, Democrats. Chris Van Hollen is a lowlife who shouldn't represent anyone, certainly not the state of Maryland or anyone for that matter. Anyone that would go to El Salvador to fight for an MS-13 gangbanger is completely out of touch with America, including Maryland. The far left state of Maryland will not support this. But like I say, Democrats, please, please, please keep doing what you're doing. Please die on this hill. Champion those that are downtrodden like Tren de Aragua, the Latin Kings, MS-13. Please go to bat for these folks every single day. The Crips, the Bloods, and all the rest. Please fight for them and do it in very public ways like you're doing now. Please go to El Salvador regularly. In fact, I think you should get Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Bernie Sanders and all the rest and get a whole herd of you to go down to El Salvador and demand the release of MS-13 gangbangers and get a lot of coverage. Please. I love you for it. Fight the good fight, my friends. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.